Welcome back to K Chat with me, your host, Kayla Morales. We chat all things from love to business to spirituality, health and wellness, and everything in between. This is a space of growth, understanding, and meaningful connection. And I'm so excited to share this episode with you all. So let's get to chatting. Today's guest is an actress, comedian, and entrepreneur. She has shared her spiritual journey on her social media space, and her energy is just so magnetic. Today, we are chatting plant medicine, spirituality, and business with none other than Jennifer Lee. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Kayla. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and what we're starting off with is like your journey with mental health. And this is
Mhm.
a conversation I wanted to have with you like a few months ago, and we just never got around to it. I don't know if you
Right,
remember.
right. Yes,
Yeah.
no, I remember. I know we were going back and forth on
Yeah.
different plant medicines and different things, but I'm so excited I get to do that now with you.
Yeah. So let's just start with like your background and
Yep.
kind of like your journey. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So I was raised in the South. I grew up in Mississippi in a small town called Gaucher. It's on the Gulf Coast. And pretty much my whole life I lived in a pretty strict Asian household. So, I wasn't really allowed to have much of a social life. I wasn't allowed to like do a lot of things that normal high school kids could do. Like I
Yeah.
had to take my mom everywhere, and dating was like out of the question. Like I couldn't see a boy. Like they would not let me go near a dick. Like if they wanted me to, like they were just like, no, no, you are not getting pregnant. You are gonna stay in the house. And I pretty much got quarantined my whole life. So I know the struggle. And that kind of made me, at that age, like I was going through a lot of things, and I like was a rebel, and I snuck out and like lied and did a lot of things behind my parents' back, like any teenager
Yeah.
would. And I kind of went through a lot with my dad. He was very controlling growing up. Like he just was a really strict father. He would whip my ass if like I didn't listen to his rules and stuff. And I kind of like, I don't know, I definitely had depression as a teenager for some reason. I think because in that Asian culture, we were taught to suppress our emotions. Like every time I
Hmm.
cried, I would, they would be like, why are you crying? You don't need to cry. Like, get over it.
Yeah.
And that just like, that just kind of made me feel like I couldn't talk, I couldn't cry, I couldn't tell anyone anything. So I pent up a lot of emotions inside of me, and that really affected my mental health in so many
Yeah.
ways. And I kind of had like a traumatic event with my ex, and it turned out that like both our parents found out about us, and it was just like Asian parents finding out that their kids are having sex at like 15 is the worst thing a parent could go through. So I got grounded for 2 whole years.
Damn,
I
2
got
years.
grounded for 2 whole years. And my parents made me work, and I would just have like panic episodes because I was just so like distraught from the
Oh,
experience of going through that phase. And I know my parents, like the reason why they were so strict on me growing up was because when they first moved out here from Vietnam, like they had escaped a whole freaking war and just wanted to like live their best lives. And right when they got here in America, they ended up getting pregnant with my brother with like no money. And like they had my brother at a very early age, so that's why they were so strict on me as a girl, because they were like, we don't want you pregnant at a young age and have to take care of your baby. So like
yeah.
that's why they grounded me for 2 years, because they were like, we're not risking that.
Yeah.
so so that kind of made me realize like, fuck, like I'm not like, that was hard, that was really hard for me growing up. And
Yeah.
I started really getting depressed. And I just didn't know who to talk to. Depression wasn't talked about enough. And for the next, I would say, you know, 10 years after going through all that, I had depression throughout my whole college life and recently, since last year. And it's been hard. It's been hard because when you're not allowed to express your emotions or feelings, where does it all go?
Yeah.
Like where do you put it? And I had put a lot of that into drugs and partying and sex and just, YOLO, living my best life without telling anyone that I'm really depressed inside. And that's like,
Yeah.
that's heavy. That's heavy. And I'm sure a lot of people experience it. And for me, it's just like I had like a victim mentality. Like I just felt very attacked a lot, or I just felt like people judged me throughout years, or like I felt like why my dating life keeps failing, like am I not worthy? Like I really had a lot of self-hate for me. And
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody for the longest time,
Mhm.
going to therapy was scary. Like it was so hard for me to kind of experience all of that by myself.
Yeah.
And I've I've learned a lot though. I think I traveled. I lived in Australia for about a year and I backpacked in Southeast Asia for 6 months, and just doing all that stuff really helped. Really helped me a lot in terms of overcoming depression or just understanding, where in my body and in my heart, like, how does it feel? Where does it lie?
Yeah, when did
I,
you like first identify like, okay, like I'm going through this thing, like I'm feeling depression? Like when did you first identify the issue or problem?
I think it was when I was in college and I went through like my first real serious breakup. And I just remembered, like, I just wanted to, like, I had a lot of suicide thoughts and I didn't understand why. I was
Yeah.
like, am I just, I don't know. Like, I didn't know how to describe it or let it go. And then when I saw my dad, like, I remember one time I came home to my dad and he just like, I just found out he has Alzheimer's. And then I just kind of saw the cycle patterns he was going through and I recognized it as depression. I was like, wait a minute, like that kind of makes more sense now. I see my dad, he's been through a lot and he's been depressed for a long time, but never identified it, never told anyone, never really talked about it.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what if, like, what if I can just, I think, I don't know if it's can be passed down, but whatever he was going through as a father and me as a child, I probably took a lot of that on,
Yeah.
like I think he was really depressed because he was a gambling addict, a drunk. He like cheated on like my dad did a lot of horrible things, but he could not like forgive himself. His
Dang.
parents died and he wasn't there for them when they died because of the war. And like he just like took on so many things, and I think that kind of passed on to me as a kid, and that
Mhm.
explains why he was controlling, explain why he was the way he was. And that's when it hit me that like, wow, my dad's been depressed, and if he's been depressed, that just makes sense that what I'm going through is what he's going through.
Yeah. I think it
um
definitely does get I'm not sure about like genetically, but I'm
mhm,
pretty sure at some in some capacity, but it definitely gets passed down to you just like yeah, through like actions and behaviors and like little
right,
traumas that you picked up as a child, like
right,
um
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
and that's
makes a lot of
hard.
sense.
That's kind of hard to like, when I started realizing it, I'm like, oh man, it makes a lot of sense. So
Mhm.
it's just like, I kind of, I don't know, because depression's one of those things where you don't know why you're so sad. You
Yeah.
don't know why, like, you just feel like the world is against you and you're just going through all these emotions and not being able to talk about it, cry about it, or like see help about it. It's just like, it's hard.
When did you
And
realize, oh sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No. You're good. You're good.
When did you realize that like okay, I gotta get help for this or I gotta figure something out. This isn't working anymore.
You know, I really try to take this on by myself for a long time.
Mhm.
And the only things that have really like gotten me out of it was magic mushrooms.
Yes, I want to hear
And
about it.
yeah, so I this one time in Langkawi, it's an island in Malaysia. I I stayed there for a whole week.
Yeah.
My trip was supposed to be only 3 days, but for some reason, God or the universe had, kept delaying my plans. And I stayed in this rundown hostel. It was the only hostel available. And I was chilling with the locals, and the locals were like, "You want to do some magic mushroom shakes?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." They're like, you can come with us to go get it." And I was like, you want me to come with you to your drug dealer? Like, where are you? Like, what do you mean? Like, and we end up like motorbiking into this one part of the field on Langkawi where it's just like nothing but a field of cow manure and shit,
Oh
like
my
just
gosh.
everywhere. And I was like, no way. We're actually picking up magic mushrooms in this field of cow poop. And they're like, yeah, they're like fresh right now because it just rained. And I was like, oh my God. And so we picked it up, we cleaned it, and we blended it up with some
So you literally had to go out and like pick for these.
Pick them. Yeah. Like naturally hand-picked magic mushrooms.
It's pretty legit. It's like,
it was
can't
pretty
get more
legit.
organic than that. Yeah.
I know. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do for it. But I ended up tripping 3 days in a row straight.
No.
And I kid you not, the first time I tripped, I had like a really bad trip and I didn't understand why. And
what happened?
Luckily
what was like
I took too much. I drank like a whole shake by myself, and they were like, she's gonna have some fun. And
wait, hold on. I think I lost you for a second. Let's see.
And just weird things. And it was like, oh man, it was scary. It was scary because I just wasn't sure what I was experiencing. But luckily, like the
wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm losing you again. Things.
Oh, okay, yeah. I saw a lot of scary things. Didn't know what was going on. My mind was like thinking about a million thoughts at once, and I just could not enjoy that first time I tripped. And I was like, fuck, I'm so screwed. Like, I shouldn't have picked up shrooms from cow shit. That was like my first thought. Like, this was not a good idea. But luckily, like the owner of that hostel, she pretty much calmed me down and really guided me through. And she was like, these like magic mushrooms are not meant for fun, if that was like your intention for it. Like these are kind of like medicinal mushrooms. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, it's going to make you learn something. Like every trip is always a learning experience, whether it's good or bad, because tomorrow you're going to feel like a different person. And I was like, I don't know. Like my brain feels pretty mush right now. But she was right, because the next day it was so weird. I had like this dream of like Buddha, and just like, it was kind of like one of those things where it's just like, I thought about life and death, and just really like, what am I going to do with my life if like these were like my last few days?
Yeah.
A huge epiphany in this dream vision I had. And the next morning I just remember feeling very fresh, and like I went for a run. I started like clearing my thoughts, and I was like, okay, wrong. So then that next day I met my like soulmate guide. I can't explain how that feels, but it's basically someone you have met and you feel like you've already met them, or you just feel like in some lifetime that like, you're connected in some kind of way. And I was like, wow, everything about him was exactly me, except he was wiser. He was like a little bit further ahead in life, so he understood what I was going through.
Yeah.
And he was, you can come trip with me again. Let's trip together. And I was like, I just tripped yesterday. I don't know if I want to like trip myself out. He's like, no. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take very good care of you. And okay. And basically we did the shake thing again. And he was like, this time you're just going to sip on the shake. You're not going to down it, like I heard you did yesterday. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And we just like took little sips. And it was the craziest experience I've ever had that day, because he took us to this nice waterfall on the island with a bunch of other people. And he was the friendliest person in the world. I'm talking like he made friends with everybody that came our way. Say hi. He would say, my name is Isma. These are my friends. Isn't she beautiful? Like just all these like positive and radiating things. And I just felt for the first time very like safe. And like, I remember that day we were tripping, but I didn't feel like we were tripping. I felt like I was at the most blissful state of my life. Like I
Mhm.
just felt so in tune with nature and the islands. I like started talking like in my thoughts to like monkeys and trees and
Oh.
just really admiring beauty of nature, really admiring the beauty of nature. And it was just so like I like wanted to cry that day because I was just like, this is how life should feel every single day, just like
Yeah.
pure bliss. And that was just such a beautiful day for me. And I just remember like, if I ever do shrooms again, that I want it to be just like enjoying it, not to like trip balls, but to actually just like take a sip, enjoy that present moment, and really like take that in. And it was such a big lesson for me because that soulmate guy, he basically laid out everything that I kind of needed to realize. Like he was being so honest with me about how I was thinking, just saying like I overthink too much, that like I need to slow down, and just like all these like Buddhist monk like
Yeah.
sayings to me. And I was just like, who are you? Like, what in the fucking world like is this? Like I just never felt so connected to someone and present in
Are you
that
guys still
moment.
connected friends?
We are
Oh,
Facebook
cool.
friends.
Okay, nice.
He's actually an actor and producer and
Oh,
director
cool.
in Malaysia. So I was just like, that's kind of cool. He's really like, I'm like, I would love to one day reunite and just like, see how things go. So
Yeah, that's
definitely made
cool.
that experience beautiful.
That sounds like a great experience. Where so you also lived in Australia for a little?
I did. I lived in Australia for a whole year. Like that was a
How'd you
trip
like
for
it?
sure.
Was that
I
before your
loved
trip to the
it.
island?
That was before my Asian trip, like my Asia trip. Like I basically, lived abroad, and I had the best year. I had one of the worst years, but best years of my life,
Yeah.
because it was one of those things like you miss family and been homesick for so long and just kind of going through a lot of things on your own again. Definitely had the most depressing state out
Oh.
there for the first half of the year, because that was when I was in a relationship, and that was just like a very toxic relationship.
Mm,
But after that relationship really made me realize a lot of things too. Like
yeah.
I did not want to be depressed as much anymore, because that relationship taught me that toxic relationships take a toll on your life. It
For
really
sure.
can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
any
So.
to any capacity, especially like a
Mhm.
romantic relationship, but even just a friendship
Mhm.
with someone who's toxic
Yeah.
is draining. Um,
Very
I
very
wanted to get
draining.
into what are some practices. So after your Malaysia trip, Malaysia, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Your Malaysia trip. When did you start like incorporating more spiritual practices and things that
Mhm.
could assist you in your mental health kind of journey?
So, after my travel journeys, I actually went through a more depressing state
Mm-hmm.
coming back to the US, because when you were living so YOLO and high for so long, coming back home felt like a different story. And I honestly was really depressed for at least like a year or two when I came back to America. It definitely took some time to adjust, and it really wasn't until I moved to LA, that I really started my spiritual journey. I uh, I partied a lot, like when I was going through that, depressing state after traveling. Like I was doing a bunch of drugs with friends and partying, and just kind of like trying to reliving those adrenaline moments that I had
Mm-hmm.
traveling. But then like it was my first year in LA, and I did a lot of partying to a point where it was kind of dangerous, like
Mm-hmm.
I was getting blacked out. I was like hoeing left and right. Like it was like to a point where I was just like, I need to get my shit together somehow, some way, somehow,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I just had a really rough first year of LA. I got sent to the ER because I freaking burnt myself out with stress, and I
Yeah.
would find myself in these kinds of like episodes that I couldn't explain. Like it was just like I just feel lonely and depressed and I just feel like I'm not good enough. Like I just feel like nothing is working out in my favor. I would have like good moments and I would have bad luck moments. And I just kept having these moments where everything would start to be good and then it would just fucking crash really hard.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until I had like another shroom trip here in Los Angeles, and it was like the worst trip I could have ever had
Oh my gosh.
because it was with a boy. It was with a boy I was seeing or dating at the time, and it's like I didn't do shrooms since that Malaysian trip, so it was wild for me to see how many demons that I had inside of me. And that bad trip was like kind of the last point, like the final point, because I was like, I obviously have a lot of things going on inside of me that I need to work on, that I need to like heal from, that I need to like figure out. So the woman that's the shroom, she's actually a shaman. And I was very curious because I kept hearing about microdosing and how it could cure depression. And I was at that point where it's just like, I am willing to do anything at this point to stop feeling like this. And she put me on I talked to her about it, and she was like, this is very common. Like, she basically had a lot of clients that she was doing this microdose practice for. So she was like, I can get you started on like 0.25 grams. You can take it every other day or, 3 to 4 days, up to you, however you feel comfortable with. Just test and trial it out. And she also told me to stop eating meat and try to be on a more vegetarian diet and to cut out certain foods from my diet. And so I basically followed what she said, and I kid you not, like I went through a really tough first month microdosing. Basically, I was crying. I was crying a lot. I was crying a lot, and I wouldn't understand why. And she said that's normal because what microdosing does, you're not tripping, but you're feeling kind of like the small effects of it. And it's like opening up. It's a lot of things that, I've either blocked or closed out. So when I'm opening up certain blockage, it's like a lot of emotions that I didn't cry for those years of trauma and painful experience. They're all coming out. And this is like basically, this took me a while, but for that first year of microdosing, I cried a lot.
How long have you been microdosing now?
I've been microdosing since August of 2019. So it's been a really beautiful journey for me though, because I have really released a lot of things that were inside of me and just being more myself and learning to appreciate life, learning.
No.
I don't know where we left off, but I'm gonna try my best.
It's okay. I can ask a question. So I want to know, when you're microdosing, how are you taking it? Is it like a tablet?
Yeah. She gave me chocolate and capsules.
That's what I
thought. So I could pick either or. I kind of like the capsules because they're easier to carry and eat. But chocolates, they hit a different type of way.
Yeah.
But I would take 0.25 grams every like at the beginning it was every other day, and then as I slowly started progressing and getting better, I would take like two or three times a week, and then now I only take it maybe once a week or every other week because I haven't been as I don't really. I think after a while you don't really need it as much anymore. Up to you to decide, how you want to take it. So, yeah.
I want to talk about, so you were crying for a while. What do you think you healed in that first year, or when did you realize okay, this is probably what's happening, and or any advice to anyone healing too? Those are 3 questions.
So basically, like how my shaman described it, we're kind of, as humans, we're kind of like an onion. So we just absorb, as a child, we absorb whatever is going on around us, right? And so it just keeps getting more and more, you stack on a lot of things when they haven't been released or open. So for me, when I, cried everything out, it was mostly out of like feeling lonely or insecure or feeling very not like self-loathing. I realized like, wow, I've been really mean to myself and mean to the people I love. And like, you just start to realize, I took a lot of things for granted. Like I really, at that time, I was an actress. I just wanted to like work. I just wanted to hustle. I wanted to like make money. I wanted to meet all these people and get network connections.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like really focused on that like American hustle life and trying to
Yeah.
make it big, that I forgot to really check in with myself. I noticed, I would say yes to a lot of people. I didn't know how to set boundaries with people. I started feeling very anxious a lot because it was just like if I wasn't doing something, I felt
Yeah.
very, hard on myself. So it was just a lot of things I started realizing. And every time I cried or every time I had this, epiphany about myself, it's like peeling layers of my onion out. And the more layers I'm peeling, the more you start to really see the real you. You start to really see, I started seeing who I really was. And that took a lot of time because that meant I needed to open up more. I needed to
Mm.
actually face my fears and really be honest with myself that I'm not okay, that I'm
Yeah.
not, like I'm not the best version of me that I can be, that I really want to work hard on being more independent and being more trustworthy of me and not having to depend on people to take care of me. So it was a
Yeah.
lot of like a lot of self-realization.
It sounds so cool. It's so great to hear because now, I mean, from me watching you on social media, I feel like you're so independent and so brave and like, and so it's cool to hear
Yeah.
kind of the backstory. Um, so you changed your diet
Mm-hmm.
and then you started
Yes.
microdosing. What other practices did you pick up? Um,
Um, so I definitely enjoy being vegetarian
mm,
so much more. I didn't realize that meat was one of my biggest issues with my body and my mind because I didn't take I wasn't aware of like where my meat came from when I was eating
mhm,
it. So a lot
yeah,
of the things that is wrong with us is what we put into our bodies. And the first thing I recognized was like just my overall health. Like, was I taking care of my body? Was I exercising? When am I eating the right meals? Because growing up in the South, like food is
yeah,
culture.
yeah,
Okay. It's just meat, fat. Like we just eat for fun. We eat when we want to do something. You want to go eat. Like we just eat. And I grew up on eating meat. I grew up on eating fried food. I grew up on just like, eating all these things. So it was very difficult for me to practice being a vegetarian. I was actually just pescatarian, but I ate mostly vegetarian things. And when I started being more aware of what I was putting into my body, it just made more sense
mm,
because when I switched to a more vegetarian diet, I'm not consuming life. I'm not consuming animals. I'm
mm,
not like feeling lethargic or I'm not feeling like tied down because sometimes like I notice my meat, if you really knew where they came from and like which farm it came from and how that animal died to feed us, it was kind of like, oh my God, I'm taking on whatever life came from this. And if that life
and the
wasn't
trauma
lived,
that life has
yeah,
experienced as well. Mhm.
yeah. And I know that's kind of weird to say a lot of like, because when you're eating, you're not aware of it, but it is something to be aware of. Like, did that meat you're eating, did it come from a place of happiness and love, or did it came from
Mhm.
slaughtering and farm just to make money off of it? And there
Yeah.
is a huge difference when you change your diet. I
Mhm.
I became a lot more energetic. I became a lot more happy. I became a lot more clear-minded when I switched to vegetarian, and that really made such a huge difference in my life.
Mhm.
And now I'll eat meat maybe once in a while. And if I am going to eat meat, I'm going to make sure that meat came from like a happy place and
Yeah.
to really be aware of what I'm putting in my body. And um, so turning into a vegetarian was more of a good change for me than a, bad one. That also made me want to be more aware of like how I was treating my body too. So
Mhm.
at that time I was sleeping around a lot, and I didn't realize that like I was giving a lot of my energy to these
Yeah.
men.
Yeah. These men,
So
man.
these men, they will suck the living life out of you. Like, and that was like the biggest issue in my life was men. I was
Yeah.
constantly dating the wrong men. I was in toxic relationships a lot, and I didn't realize like that is a huge part of my depression. So I kind of just stopped dating for a little bit and just really, stuck to myself. And that was a really huge thing for me to do. Very grateful quarantine helped a lot with that too.
Yeah.
So saving that energy, I can't describe it, but it's just like not having to worry about men and just getting rid of that altogether was a huge step for me, because I realized that was a lot of the stress I was having.
Yeah.
So yeah, being single, okay, that's my be single for the
That's the real
spiritual
glow up.
journey. That is, yes.
Yeah.
Oh man. And
I
then
want to talk. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. Oh, okay, I was just gonna say, and meditation, doing a lot of
Yeah.
meditation has just as big as effect as microdosing. That was definitely one thing that I highly recommend everyone to practice. Is just meditating. That definitely changed the game for me too.
I agree. What do you have any resources as far as meditation or even any other resources right now that you use to help kind of your spiritual practices?
So for me, I have to do affirmations,
Yes.
meditation, visualization, and journaling. Those are my top everyday mindful practices. And, during this time of spiritual awakening for me, I became more aware of my habits and just realizing that, like, having a clean room, having a clean space, just being clean in general.
Yeah.
I used to be very messy, and for this past year, it was just like I care about being clean, because having a clean space, a made bed, a clean room, everything clean, it's like everything clear.
Yeah, like literally
Um,
clears your mind, declutters your
yes.
mind.
Like now, yeah. And I told myself I have to clean every day. Like whether that's doing the dishes or cleaning up my room, like I don't, it's like I used to be that person that threw clothes on the floor everywhere and just like leave things as a bee, but now it's like I can't stand it.
It's
And
kind of
that's
like
that's been a
leaving,
huge.
yeah, it's kind of like leaving little like gifts for your future self. Like anytime I feel like I want to like
Yeah.
leave clothes somewhere because I'm the same way or don't want to do the dishes, I'm like, my future self would really love
Future
this little gift
self.
right now,
That's a
you know?
great, yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, that's it. And basically, that is you, like in this present moment, thinking about your future. That was
Yeah.
definitely, that makes sense. Um,
Um, I wanted to talk more about affirmations too. So
mhm.
I noticed you started doing your TikTok affirmations on
Yes.
Instagram, and I love them. They're always so calming, and I like sit there and do them with you, your
Oh
virtual
my God, I
self.
love that. Thank
So yeah,
you.
how did you start getting into affirmations, and how do you use it during meditation?
Hmm.
And yeah, let's start there.
So I read this book called The Miracle Morning. That is one of the, like, if you have a chance to read that book, because the Miracle Morning basically talks about your morning routine.
Hmm.
And for a while I thought a morning routine looked like waking up at 5 a.m., going for a run, knocking out all the things you need to do, but it's really not. It's actually a lot simpler than that. And they have this thing where it's called, I think he has an acronym called savor, and it's basically you sit in silence for the first 5 to 10 minutes, and then the A means affirmations. You say all the things that you want to feel or you want to express for the day. And then V is visualization. You visualize how you want your day to go. You set your intentions, and you do what it is that you want to do by the end of the day. And then the next one is exercise, read, and then I think S S is something. I forgot the last one. But those three, Savior, there we go. Those main ones really made a huge difference. And instead of exercise and reading regularly, I was like, I could just do the same because that stuff is more it's more fun to do. And when you start your day clear-minded and saying affirmations, it's like you're already starting off on a good foot. You're already setting the tone for the day. So for me, I started saying affirmations every single morning as the first thing I do when I wake up. It's just like, if I say it, maybe I will feel like it. Because sometimes a lot of us, we wake up and we're like, like, you know, I got to start the day. But if you start the day saying, I am ready, I am beautiful, I'm ready to make money, I'm ready to commit myself to exercise and read and make everyone happy. And the more you say it, it's like you really feel it. And
it's kind of just cheering yourself on, right? Like just cheering and supporting yourself and being the best version you can be.
Right.
I think that's great.
It's uncomfortable at first because, you know, when you've been like self-loathing yourself for a long time, you're like, I don't know how to feel this way. But it's just one of those. Yeah, it's so cute. Oh my God, what's your cat's name?
Teal.
Yeah.
He never really jumps up either. He must just like be here because
oh my God, I love that.
But let's talk about your business. So you started a tarot business. How did you realize that you're intuitive? When did that kind of come? And then tell me about starting your business.
So it was at the beginning of 2020. And like I said, I've been microdosing and going through this spiritual journey. And I found YouTube tarot card readings and I was so hooked. Like I just could not stop watching them. And they all just kind of led me to do tarot card reading. They're like, you are a spiritual person, you are meant to do this. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I bought my first deck off of Amazon. It's called the Mystic Monday deck, and it's like the best intuitive deck to start off with. If anyone's interested in doing tarot, I highly recommend this deck. And for me, I kind of just did it for fun. You know, I wasn't expecting to turn it into a business. I started doing readings for friends, and it got real, like, it got really crazy when I started doing readings for people. I'm talking like I was on a whole different like level when I do tarot card readings. I just feel very connected to the cards and feel very connected to people when I do readings for them, because it's kind of like they're opening up they're opening up themselves to this reading, and I get this beautiful chance to really give them whatever messages they need to hear. And they've always been positive. They've never been, I've never had like a really, oh man, crazy shitty reading. I've always had very insightful and beautiful readings. And it just be kind of really deep. It's like being really deep with someone doing these readings. And I would say things that they've never told anyone or have never mentioned to people. And that part would kind of freak me out because I'm like, I don't know, I just kind of feel it. It's like, it's just this feeling. It's like when you walk into your room, you can tell when someone's having a bad day or like something's off, or you know that they're going through something. It's basically like that. And that kind of made me realize, wow, this is a gift. And my friends were like, you know what, you should start this as a business. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah, just try it. And I just started doing donation-based readings, and I was getting booked. My friends were recommending me left and right, and it was such a like, it was crazy. I wasn't expecting that to happen. And now it is a business. I hired a business coach and everything to help me out with this.
Good job. That's awesome.
And now I do psychic readings for people, and it's crazy. It's honestly really crazy.
I definitely want to get we have to work something out between our followers, our listeners.
I would love to, yes.
But yeah, I think that would be great. We'll definitely talk about that.
Yes, we
don't
will.
Let me forget. What business advice would you, now that you've gotten it kind of up and running, what's some advice you would give to anyone else starting off a business?
If you're starting a business, don't expect it to go perfect right away,
Mm-hmm.
and just do it. Just really like take the risk. Don't be afraid to really put yourself out there. I think
Yeah.
like my biggest fear was like, who's gonna buy a reading from me? Like no one cares about this stuff. But you just surprise yourself when you
Yeah.
really put yourself out there. So I really just think like everyone has their own way of doing business. I can't tell you how to run a business.
Mm.
You kind of have to figure that out on yourself, how you want to run your business. And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful part of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like parenting in a way. Like there's so many ways you could do it, and yeah, everyone has a little bit of advice on it, but really you're the
Mm-hmm.
one that ultimately has to make the decision
Right.
and the choice for yourself. What is some advice that you would give to your past self? With
Oh
actually, yeah, in
man.
hindsight of everything that you know now with your spiritual journey, your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, what advice would you give to yourself?
My biggest advice to my past self would be one, dude, check your finances.
Yeah.
Don't don't YOLO a lot, please. Take care of your finances, but also like be open to the people that really love you. I think don't be afraid to be open with people and tell them how you really feel, and you know it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay, and just really remember that life is so short. Don't pressure yourself to try to be the best. Don't pressure yourself to be successful or catch up to your friends. Don't pressure yourself to find love. Like take it slow and let everything kind of just come to you.
Yeah, those things will
Yeah.
come. That's good advice. I'm gonna take it.
Yeah.
um, well, we talked about your trip, which I loved. Um, have you, this is kind of personal, so you don't have to answer
Okay.
if you don't want to, but I'm just interested for as far as like depression and stuff and your mental
Hmm.
health, have you ever tried like the like more like Western side of medicine and stuff for that like
Like
before?
therapy and like
Yeah, or like even
medicinal
medicine,
or
like actual like antidepressants, things like that. Not saying you have to tell me
I
that if I'm just curious.
no, I have never I've never took any antidepressant or even seen a therapist. Like for some reason I just felt like I never wanted to go that
Yeah.
route.
Yeah.
It was one of the like if I go that route, that's like my last resort is
Yeah.
taking antidepressant. And I was very close to it. But I wanted to do something that meant that was a little bit more natural. And
Yeah.
there are so many ways to cure depression. There's so many ways to do therapy. Like,
Definitely.
I
And
think you
it
have
all
to just
doesn't
find your
resonate with
way.
anyone. I was honestly just curious.
Yeah,
but
no,
but
no,
yeah,
yeah.
not everything's for everyone. But I'm glad that mushrooms worked for you and microdosing worked for you. It's honestly something
Hmm.
that interests me also just because it's more
Right.
natural. And it's
And
cool to hear about.
if like I know one thing I told a lot of people was like, because a lot of people are like, but I can't find mushrooms, or like, I don't want to do any drugs. And I highly recommend for a lot of people, if mushrooms just kind of like a quicker way to release your
Mhm.
emotions, but breath work meditation does the same
Mm,
thing. And
yeah.
that you don't have to. The first time I did breath work meditation, it was crazy.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I found a breathwork facilitator, and she was Asian too, so it kind of really helped. And
Mhm.
basically, she guided us through these breathwork meditation um, guides, and it was crazy how many people released and cry. Like your whole body is going through a lot of releasing. So I
Mhm.
recommend to people definitely take breathwork meditation if you have a lot of pent up emotions or depression or things that you just need to cry and let out, because that was kind of like the final touch to my spiritual journey
Oh
was
yeah.
doing breathwork meditation in terms of
Cool.
releasing everything.
Have you ever done a sound bath? I'm like dying to try one.
Yes,
Have you?
I love sound baths. Yes, I went to this retreat and they had a sound bath, and it's basically the sound bowls of every different size, and like
Yeah.
You know, they actually had sound bowls for each chakra of your body, and it's amazing. It's amazing how they just sound and just
Yeah.
vibrates. It's crazy.
How was, I know this, it sounds amazing. Even just listening to like YouTube videos of it, it's just, it
Mm-hmm.
still sounds so good. How was your retreat? And you just got Reiki certified, yeah?
I did,
What?
yes. I got Reiki certified. I
That's
can't
sick.
believe it. It's amazing. I went to this retreat in Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is known as the root chakra mountain in California, and that's a very
Hmm.
spiritual mountain. It's so spiritual that like people see spirit beings like aliens
Mm.
and other UFO sightings and stuff throughout these mountains. And I kid you not, this mountain definitely had a very different feel. You
Yeah.
definitely feel a lot more open. And Reiki was a lot easier than I expected. I was not sure what I was going to get myself into,
Yeah.
but Reiki is just basically the same thing that I have been doing through all my readings, is having an intention based energy. So
Hmm.
people, it was like knowing your energy and how to use your energy to heal others.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like, just feeling people's energy and just being like, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to send you love. I just want to heal whatever you're going through and make you feel good. And that intention in itself, heals people.
Definitely. Um, yeah, I think it brings me to your name on Instagram, which is Intention now. And I
Yeah.
love it because it really is. I think this past year for me, I've been really trying to be more intentional
Mm-hmm.
just about the things
Mm-hmm.
that I do. And I used to kind of hate when people say stuff like that because I'm like, what does that mean?
Right.
But really
Right.
just putting intention in every little thing you do helps things grow. So like if
It
you're starting a
does.
business, and
Mm-hmm.
you're setting those intentions, or even just like with your meals, you're setting
Mm-hmm.
intentions, like all those
Right.
things really do affect you in different ways.
It
Um,
does.
and so yeah, it just made me think of I love your Instagram name too
Oh
right
my
now. I thought it
gosh.
was cute.
I learned about intentions through acting.
Yeah.
It because acting is crazy. A lot of people think acting is just like being a different person. Acting is
Hmm.
honestly knowing who you are and how to bring yourself into a character. And
Yep.
I I think acting really helped me learn a lot about intentions, because I had an acting coach who basically that's all we did was went through every single line, and she's like, what's your intention? I'm like, what?
Yep. I know.
Like, I just want to drink. Like, that's my
Yeah.
intention. But yeah, when you're setting intentions, it does change how you do things.
Yeah. This year, I just keep going to this year. This year a lot has happened to
This
me,
year,
mental
girl,
health wise
2020.
as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it was kind of the first year where I really stopped and thought about acting in real life and how like
Yeah.
we're all just making a bunch of little choices all the time. And like
Yeah.
those choices aren't as like set in stone as you might think they are. Like you can change the
Right.
way you feel or think about something or just have a more
Right.
open perspective towards some things. So yeah,
Right.
I started thinking about acting in real life and like
Yeah.
how I choose to carry myself or how do I choose to act
Mm-hmm.
in different situations. And that like I don't know, it just trips me out that literally we're all just a bunch of like characters playing a role and it's like
That's basically
you can
it.
break out
Our
of the
life
role
is
whenever
it.
you want to, you know?
Right, right. That's amazing. That's amazing that, this year, I feel like this year everyone is going through a spiritual awakening. Like, everyone's
Yeah.
starting to realize, their intentions and how life can really be lived. It is
Yeah.
a very crazy year.
It's a crazy year and it's a good time too for
It's
like it's good
great.
that a lot of people are waking up and realizing these things. I want to talk to you about acting and maybe like acting and I want to say as an Asian. I don't know how to like really formulate the
Asian,
question.
I
But
understand,
I
like,
just
acting as an Asian, kind of like representing like Asian American in
yeah,
acting.
yeah,
Hmm.
like and just any difficulties you faced because I feel like for me I face like probably different ones but also similar.
Right, right. So, when I first started acting, I had no idea like how it worked, like
Yeah.
what to do. And I thought it was kind of weird that as actors, we are kind of already put in categories because, you know, when you audition for a role, it always says like Asian female that
Yeah.
is yada yada yada, or Asian female, or Black female, African American.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
why are we all colorized, or like, you know, why are we put in subcategories?
Yeah.
But you know, when you're first starting acting, you want to do every single role that you can, and
Yeah.
I wasn't aware how, not segregated, but how closed-minded certain story plots or lines were for certain characters. And I had auditions where it's like, can you do an Asian accent? Or, you know, I like when you have an Asian accent, or, you know, just a lot of things that a lot of people are like, I don't know. It was very weird because you don't recognize it at first. The racism that
Yeah, and
happens
there's
in
like
this
some pressure
industry.
too in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I think for me, I've had a lot more good experiences as an Asian actress because I met other Asian actors and other people, and there's a sense of unity within the all of our communities, all the colored communities. It's like we're all trying to represent, whether you're Black or Asian or Latino, like we're all trying to break into this white filled industry. So we are going to have to face a lot of those moments. And for me, I realized like a lot of roles that most people get is because they're either mixed with Asian and Black or white or whatever. If they're mixed, they're have a higher chance than you. And I didn't know that was a thing until I started seeing a lot of that. But yeah, I definitely did face some things. Some things I didn't like, obviously. It does hurt to see when you have real colored people on set and they only show the person that's white on camera. You know, like I've had those moments where it's like, I did that shoot for 12 hours and you're only going to show the back of my head, but you're going to show this white girl's face for like 3 or 4 times, you know?
Yeah, that's tricky. Oh no, I had a question. I lost it. I was going to say, any advice do you have for any comedians or actors kind of trying to break out here in LA?
If you're going to break out here, you be consistent. Be consistent, whether that's acting or stand up. Like, you can't just give up after a year or 2. Like, you really got to be dedicated to doing this every single day, or, you know, as much as you can. Because I think if you're willing to put up with all the BS that happens in this industry, the, you know, not making money your first couple of years and doing odd certain jobs, like if you really love doing what you do, then just do it.
Yeah. Honestly, that's great advice. I feel like go out for it and do your thing, but also create your own stuff. Keep yourself busy because there's waves, right? There's like highs and then there's sometimes you get nothing.
This is not a stable industry.
It's not a stable industry. Yeah,
it is not stable. So if you cannot keep up with it, like gotta definitely be grounded when it comes to this.
So I think that's all I have. Where can our listeners find you at?
So you can find me on Instagram or any, I tag all my username as Intent Jen, and that's INTENTJEN. Find me on Instagram, on TikTok, and I will start a YouTube channel and get that going. If you like tarot card readings, spirituality, or funny content, that's what I like to do. So you can follow me on there.
Yep. And your blog, you have a blog on Medium as well.
I do have a blog on Medium.
Which is so good.
Yes. I am trying to get better at writing. So if you love that, just follow me on any of my social media and keep up with my updates. For sure.
Woohoo. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Next time I want to interview you.
Yeah, I'll be on your podcast anytime.
Yes.
When you start it.